You are listening to the DADpod. I'm your host, Baxter Colburn. Join me as I try my best to navigate fatherhood for the first time. Along the way, I'll share stories of what's happening in my journey, as well as some stories from other dads who stop by the show from time to time. Fatherhood is an adventure, so let's dive right in. And hello, everybody, and welcome to the first edition of the DADpod. This week's title, What to Expect When You're Expecting. I'll explain that in a little bit. Welcome inside the show. I am Baxter Colburn, your host. It's kind of weird to be doing a show that doesn't really involve sports that much. For those of you that maybe know a little bit about me, you know that I also host some shows called Two Up Front, which is a soccer show, and What's the Score, the sports news quiz as well. So I'm stepping outside of my comfortability zone a little bit and diving into the non-sports world. There might be some sports on here a little bit, but when you have a son, it's to be expected that the topic of sports, or just when you have a kid as a whole comes up, the topic of sports is bound to come up at some point, as I'm sure many of you know. But there's a lot of great things that we have coming up on the show today, and I'm really excited to try something new as well. I just want to take, of course, a minute to remind all of you, those for listening to the show, you can find it on Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com. And it'll be also on iTunes as well for you in the coming days also. So if you hear anything on the show that you want to make a comment about, or you have dad advice for a first-time dad, you can find us by going to Facebook as well, the DADpod, all capital letters, DADpod. Send me a message that way, or send me an email as well, baxterc20@gmail.com. So a little bit of a backstory for you to start off the first episode, to give you a little bit of a preface about who I am, if this is your first time listening to anything I've ever done, and you're sitting at home or in your car or wherever you are going, now who the heck is this guy and why do I even care? A little bit of a backstory about myself. I was born in Green Bay, Wisconsin, back in the January 1992, moved to Florida when I was 13, and then came back up to Milwaukee, Wisconsin for college soccer, and that is where I ultimately met the love of my life, my beautiful wife, Liz. We met back in 2012, got engaged in 2014, and were happily married in 2015. It is now 2016, and we just welcomed our first and amazing son, Beckham Quinton, to the world. Beckham was born on November 15th, a healthy 7 pounds, 18 inches, and is just an absolute bundle of joy that has been a true blessing to us. He just actually turned a month old yesterday, so that's kind of crazy to think about that the first month has already flown by, but I'll get into more of the time flies thing in a later episode. But it's been interesting. You know, fathers, of course, are a very integral part of the world. Honestly, all of us wouldn't be here if we didn't have a dad at some point. I've got a great dad. My dad is Kurt, and my grandpa is Merle as well, and both of them have been very influential in my life over the last 24, almost 25 years as well. So I hope to have both of them on the show at some point as well to share their experiences and advice and thoughts as well about what it means to be a dad and the different struggles and joys and everything that has kind of gone into their life. But it's one of the things that I've found interesting about being a dad right now is that I'm one of the few people that I know that's my age that's a dad. My friend group is right around that mid 23, 24 to late 20s, basically. That's a majority of my friends, from college or from church or for other places, all kind of fall into that realm. And I'm one of, to my knowledge, 3 people of my friends that is married and has a child as well too. There's a couple of friends that I have that are married, but the child part of it also is the changing factor, I guess, about that. But it's interesting, and that was one of the first things that my wife and I talked about too when we found out we were pregnant. Was is it weird that we're one of the first few? And we were just talking about this again last week as well too. It's like, is it weird that we're both 25, 24, and we've already got a kid, and about 80% of our friends are either single or just dating somebody, but not even close thinking at all about marriage, or let alone even kids for that matter. We were like, we don't know. We're going to find out, obviously, as we go along on this journey, whether or not we made the right decision. I'm almost positive that we did, obviously, because the first month has been an absolute joy thus far. So it's always interesting to see the reaction from people when you have a child for the first time. It's always a little bit more difficult too, and I'm sure guys that you're out there, you understand this too. When you're the first one of your friend group to get engaged, you get heckled a little bit, like, oh, he's getting tied down. The wild horse has been tied down, kind of thing. And then you get married, and that's even more exciting. It's like, oh, you got to go home. Got the wife. You got to stay out of trouble. You only can go out past 9 o'clock if you're lucky. You get heckled by those guys, basically. And then you have your first kid, and it's like, oh, ho, ho, fatherhood, big guy. Like, what are you going to do? Like, don't screw him up. There's always those friends, basically, or those people that in your life that are always so quick to give you the words of wisdom. Doesn't really necessarily sound like positive advice, but basically just kind of like, hey, don't screw this up, because if you do, well, sucks to be you. It's always funny, too, to think about that, because then you think about the person giving you that advice at times, and you're like, well, could you do any better, realistically? Not to be that guy. But anyway, you never really know until they're also in those situations. But for me, I've never once really felt like I was getting into a bad thing, honestly. Whether it was settling down with my wife or having a child, I never once was very worried, in all honesty, about any of it. I've had a lot of great experiences throughout my life and seen a lot of really fantastic, successful marriages and parents raise kids, myself in particular also, and felt very confident about that as well. One of the things that I think a lot of people want to know when you become a first-time father is the moment that you find out that you're going to be a father. I still know exactly where I was. I know, the circumstances, all of that fun stuff. It's a fun little story. My wife and I had been trying to get pregnant since the end of last November, basically. That's when we both had kind of said, look, you know what, no more birth control. We're going to go for it and see, basically what God decides, when and if we're going to be able to get pregnant. And we had two different times that we thought Liz was pregnant, and then it ended up not being so, because for those of you that know that if your wife was on birth control, it takes a while for your body to kind of wean itself off, even though, you stop taking the birth control. It doesn't just, kind of click and it's like, oh, just kidding, we can get pregnant now. It's a little bit of a process. So there was about 2 times that we thought Liz was pregnant, but she obviously ended up not being. And then we decided, you know what, it's been a couple of months, if it happens, great. If not, we're not gonna continue to try to, as you would say, put your life on hold, and if it happens, it's in God's hands. So we took a trip down to Nashville for Christmas to visit a good friend of ours, Emily, while we were down there, and we went down with Liz's older sister and her daughter as well. We took a drive down to Nashville. It's a beautiful area. If you've never been to Nashville, I highly recommend it. It is absolutely gorgeous. Go do it. Seriously, it's absolutely incredible. So we were down there. And that was still kind of in the thick of, us trying to be pregnant, of course. And Liz had a thought before we left about, she's like, I think I might be pregnant. So we bought a pregnancy test, and it was one of those, 1-line, 2-line kind of things. And for you guys, for those of you out there, they know what I'm talking about. If it's 1 line, you're not pregnant. If it's 2 lines, you are pregnant. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. No, I'm sorry. It's 1 line, you're pregnant. If it's a cross, then you are pregnant. And Liz bought one, and she tried it, and it was the most faint, weird-looking, sort of ish, maybe kind of cross we'd ever seen. And we're like, I don't think so. I'm like, that was weird, because it was kind of like if you tilted it in the light a certain way, you could see the cross. If you tilted it the other way, you didn't see the cross. And we were both just kind of like, well, I don't think we're pregnant. We'll try. Well, maybe take another test after we get back from Nashville. So we're down in Nashville for a couple of days, enjoying the Easter celebration, of course. And Liz and I were sitting around talking on the couch mid-afternoon one day. The day before, we're actually getting ready to go home on Easter Sunday. And Liz and I are talking, and everybody else is asleep. They were really tired from the church service and dinner and everything that we had. And Liz is like, I really, really want to know if I'm pregnant. I'm like, okay, let's go to the store. So we ran to the store fast, and she was like, you know what? Let's just buy a pregnancy test that literally says yes or no. No, let's not get it any crazier. Let's just make it as straight possible as you can. So we spent a couple extra dollars on that, and we were at a grocery store, and she's like, I gotta know. She's like, I can't go home if I don't know. So, she trotted into the women's bathroom at the local grocery store. I stood outside, very nervous, wondering, and people are walking by wondering why I'm standing outside the women's bathroom so intently with a concerned look on my face, and got a couple of weird looks, but I'm like, yeah, it's all good, just waiting for my wife, no worries. And a couple of minutes passed by, and a couple more minutes passed by, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, I didn't think it took that long to pee on a stick, but maybe it did. I wasn't in there. I've never gotten the full 100% details of what exactly took place, but she's in there, and all of a sudden she comes out, and she's got the test in one hand, and she's got tears in her eyes in the other hand. And it was at that exact moment that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a father, and my wife is pregnant. And it's a moment that you never forget. It's a feeling that you never forget, obviously. And for me, I was excited, I was shocked, I was nervous, I was overjoyed, all at the same time. And it was just it was a crazy, crazy feeling, in all honesty. And I'm sure for you dads out there, that the first time you found out that your wife was pregnant with your first kid, or even multiple kids, it's always an exciting experience, because you're like, holy cow, like our lives are never going to be the same. We have this massive change that's about to take place, but it's a good thing. It's obviously a very good thing, and having that time was kind of crazy. It was like, holy cow, my wife is pregnant. So we tried to keep it on the down low as much as we could, but we obviously told a bunch of family right away, and some really close friends, just because you can't get news like that and not tell anybody for a couple of weeks, because of course folks are usually saying, wait through the first trimester before you really tell anybody. And we did, for the most part, when we made like the massive major announcement, of course, but we wanted friends and family to know what was going on, so that way they could, obviously be praying, but also, be excited for us as well too. One of the things too, when I first found out that Liz was pregnant, was, of course, the questions arise. Well, do you want a boy? Do you want a girl? What are you going to name them? All the crazy things that go into that. But I personally wanted a girl to start. That's nothing against my son Beckham. I love you, Beckham. I'm very glad that you were born first. Now, in hindsight, looking back at it. But for some reason, I've always gotten along with little girls. We've got great family friends that have a family of girls, and I've always gotten along with them. And I was like, I would like to be a father to a daughter at some point. And I was like, if it's the first one, that would be amazing. But God had other plans. One of the first ultrasounds that we went to, there was a complication. There was a cystic hygroma behind Beckham's head, a sack of fluid, basically, is what it came down to. And the doctors were really concerned about that. They said that would potentially, cause different, defects or different diseases or something that could potentially harm the baby, whether it made it to term or not. And we were obviously very, very surprised by that, and a bit of a reality check after being so joyous and excited for several weeks. Hearing that information was really difficult to hear, that you may or may not be having a child, which was kind of a crazy thing. And it hit my wife very hard. It hit myself equally as hard also. But it was interesting to see the support that came from it, and being able to know that there are people in our lives that love us dearly no matter what. And they're a big reason as well in the beginning why we told so many people, in terms of family and close friends, about what was going on. And we didn't tell as many people about what was going on. We did make a small post about it and tell people, please be praying. We're still waiting to hear for more information. And the response was overwhelming. The people, the phone calls, the visits. Personally, one of my favorite visits was from our friends Julianne and Eric. We told them what was going on. We called them on the phone, and Liz and I were still both kind of blubbery messes for at least a little bit because of what was going on, and just the very real fact that, something serious could be going on with our baby, so early on. And they were talking to them on the phone, and they said, you know what? They're like, are you guys home right now? We're like, yeah, we're just hanging out on the couch, just had dinner, watching Netflix, I think is what we were doing. And Julianne was like, we're coming over right now. I was like, okay, sure. She's like, what's your favorite type of ice cream? And we're like, what? She's like, don't worry about it. We'll bring it over. So they came over with, I think, four containers of like the single serve ice cream, containers, basically, Baskin Robbins. I'm spacing on Ben and Jerry's. That's what it is. They came over with Ben and Jerry's, 4 little tubs of Ben and Jerry's, basically, and sat and talked to us and just kind of let us laugh, let us cry. We ate ice cream, and it was a very real experience to know that there are people in this world that genuinely care about you, regardless of things are going good, if things are going bad, and to have that support was overwhelming at that point. There was one other time too, from one of our close friends that we basically call family. His name was Brian, and he's, in my opinion, he's always kind of come off as to an extent a man's man. He is a very good-looking guy. Does a lot of great things for his family, and just really is able to get things done, and wouldn't come off as the emotional type of person if you didn't know him. And we were on the phone with Brian and his wife and their family as well too, telling them the information. And I guess it didn't really hit me how potentially serious the situation was, or how crazy the amount of love people actually had for my wife and I and this baby that we didn't even know if it was a boy or a girl yet at that point was. To hear the tone of voice in Brian's, when he was talking to us on the phone, go from being concerned to just flat out crying. I've known Brian for several years. He's a great family friend. He was at my wedding. I've never ever seen him like that. Never heard him cry. Never seen him really that emotional. And that really hit me hard to hear him crying. And I started crying because it's something weird. And that people say this. It's something about a grown man crying that does something to you almost more than seeing a baby or a woman crying as well too. But yeah, Brian crying really hit me hard, and it just kind of enhanced the relationship, I think, from all angles, about the love and the the amount of respect that people had for us as well too. But Lord willing and thankfully, everything was just fine, and we were able to overcome the adversities that we had. We had several more tests run, and the cystic hygroma relieved itself on its own, which the doctors thought it would, which was just an absolute blessing. And we were able to move forward without any major complications all the way through birth. But I talked about at the beginning episode that the name of this show was What to Expect When You Were Expecting. And I know that that's also the name of a very important book that a lot of women read while they are expecting, of course, because what do you expect? I think that's also the name of a movie as well. But the 9 months from the time that we found out that Liz was pregnant to the time that Beckham was born in mid-November were kind of crazy. We found out that it was a boy early because of some of the tests they had to run, a genetic test, a blood test, so we were able to find out earlier than most would that it was a boy, which was really awesome, because my family is all boys, Liz's family is all girls. So from a family perspective, it was kind of like, well, of course it's a boy. What else did you expect, honestly? I will be honest, I was a little sad. I'm like, I was hoping for a girl, first one. But like I said, in hindsight, I'm really glad that we're having a boy first, because we can raise him to be a strong leader of the family. We can raise him to be a great brother and to be a defender as well if we do have girls in the future, because you want your son to be able to be not only a protector of your daughters, his sisters, but also carry on the family name with respect and honor as well. As very movie-like as that might sound, or a novelistic, I guess. Either way. But once we knew it was a boy, though, of all the questions, all the the uncertainty that goes with that, you get all the questions about what are you going to name him. We had people up until like a week before Beckham was born prying at us, saying, "Oh, I bet you I know the name," or "I bet you it's going to be this name," or people were coming up. So we decided to come up with the most crazy, random names We're saying Nebuchadnezzar was one of the names. We're like, oh yeah, we're going to call him Neb, little Nebby or Neb, basically, just to kind of mess with people, because I think if you can hold on to the name that you're going to choose for your child until they are born, I think that's a very special moment between you and your wife, being able to kind of do the big reveal. I think that's almost as special as the gender reveal, I think, also. Some might say it's even more important. I would agree with that. When you have a son, there's a lot that goes with that. There's the, being a guy as well. You immediately start to reflect on your own life and everything that you have done to this point. During my 24, 25 years, thinking about the good, the bad, the ugly, what I think I got away with as a kid, what I know I didn't get away with as a kid, and all the success and failure that comes with being a boy, being a son, being a brother. I've got 2 little brothers also, so there's a lot of different things that go into being a boy and being a man in this world. Probably the biggest thing is making sure that my son and my future sons, if I am blessed to have more, know that they are loved, that they are respected, but they also know that they have to apply that to other people as well, because I didn't get to where I am by just frolicking around. I was able to finally settle down. I was able to give all of my love to one person. I was able to respect my wife, and that was the big thing. So being able to get those traits in your mind ahead of time, come up with a game plan, be able to think about what is going to be the most important things that you want to do for your children ahead of time, because there's going to be times where you're going to be, your wife is going to be 6-7 months pregnant, and you're going to be really thinking about it, what's going on. You're going to feel the baby kick for the first time, which is just a mind-blowing experience. You think that, your wife's stomach is having a small seizure, basically, and it's like, nope, that's the baby kicking. And being able to feel their little foot or their little hand or even the outside of their head, basically, too, is an unreal experience. And don't ever pass up on that opportunity, because there are so many times that we're such a busy society nowadays, and if you pass on opportunities before the baby is born to feel them kick or to read them a bedtime story, do that. There's a lot of times that Liz and I would sit down for bed, and I'm just absolutely exhausted, and Liz would be like, "Hey, can we read a bedtime story to the baby before we go to bed?" And your first thought might be, "I am so tired. I don't have any energy to do this. Like, I just don't." But the other side of you stops and thinks and says, "You know what? Yes, I think we should, because it's important for the baby to get to hear your voice, of course, ahead of time, but it's those memories. You're never going to get those memories back. I'm never going to read a book to my child in the womb for the first time ever again. It's just never going to happen again. I'm going to have, 2, 3, 4, 16 kids, hopefully not that many, but there never will be the first of anything ever again. It's always going to be like, oh, I remember when we had Beckham that we did this, so this is the second time, or this is the fourth time doing this." Really, truly embrace those first moments as a dad for everything that's taking place, from the first kick to the first time you see them on the ultrasound, just to falling asleep with your hand on your wife's belly, basically holding your child without actually holding your child. You're never going to get those moments back. Your kids grow up so fast. I know, for those of you that are out there that have 4, 5, 6 kids who are all either in high school or out of high school, you're just like, I swear I was just holding them for the first time. Beckham's only a month old, and I've already been kind of like, I swear he was just born, and already the first month has cruised by. It's really insane how fast time flies. My biggest thing of advice for you that I want you to take away is, don't ever think that you will get another time. Always embrace every single moment as the first and last time that you're ever going to get to do something like, rub your wife's belly or feel your son kick, because things happen, things change all the time. Always embrace it. You're never going to get those firsts back. So take those extra 2 minutes out of your day to set your laptop aside, put your phone down, take that business call or personal call later on. Just spend time with your wife, being able to have open communication, to be able to spend time talking to your baby, telling it stories, and just really embracing what it means to be a first-time dad, because those moments are incredibly special. Well, thank you for joining me for the Dad Pod. I'm still working out the schedule for the show, but my hope is to have a new show out for you weekly. If you liked what you heard today, please share it with your friends, your family, and other dads that you might know. If you want to let me know your thoughts about today's show, send the DADpod a Facebook message or email me at baxterc20@gmail.com. Fatherhood can be scary, but not when you have others helping you along the way. Together, we can all experience what being a father is all about. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time on the DADpod.